Welcome back to Hurricane Ike Life's Lessons. Houston, you know, is the fourth largest city in America, and when disaster strikes, our city leaders are ready to respond. So just how did they do when Ike put them to the test? Miriam Atayi has the story.
There have been new developments in the weather over the last 24 hours.
That development was Hurricane Ike, the third most catastrophic storm to ever make landfall in U.S. history. Galveston became ground zero for the storm on September 13th. Mayor Bill White, along with local and state officials, worked around the clock informing people what to expect from Hurricane Ike.
It gained strength rather quickly compared to some other storms that have been out there. That's just a fact. That is just a reality. But this could be a storm that has very high winds, and this is a storm that could have high range associated with it.
It was also the largest evacuation ever ordered for the state of Texas.
Because what we all want to avoid is some of the congestion that we've seen in the past. The storm surge is stronger, and it's important that people understand that this really is a life or death matter.
The night before the storm made landfall, it packed winds in excess of 145 miles per hour and brought more than 20 to 40 feet of storm surge. Although Ike was downgraded from a Category 4 to a Category 2, damage and cleanup cost an estimated $24 billion across the U.S.
We had winds and water, and we were left with a legacy with people who had some holes in their roofs, but most of us are just struggling with the fact that there's a lot of power out. Judge Emmett and I and other elected officials have insisted that CenterPoint Energy, the company that's responsible for the electrical power wires, getting those up, throw all the resources that it can with a sense of urgency into getting the power system back up.
More than 2.5 million people were affected by power outages. Some went as long as 3 weeks without electricity. CenterPoint Energy crews worked 16-hour shifts until the power was restored. However, the manpower was not enough.
We asked CenterPoint to draw crews from all over the nation. Secretary Chertoff did the same. We have crews working now in our community from everywhere from New York and New Jersey down through Florida, all throughout the Gulf Coast, all the way to Arizona. So we do have 8,000 workers who've come here, as well as CenterPoint employees and contractors making up that workforce.
Hurricane Ike carved a path of destruction, leaving residents without food, shelter, water, and everyday necessities. The mayor mentioned during natural disasters, camaraderie is key for Houstonians.
This was one of the worst natural disasters in American history, but Houstonians heeded my call to take individual responsibility for their neighborhoods. They cleared the streets, they cleared the drains, they provided their neighbors with food, where they had a backup power generator with ice, and that is the best lesson of all.
Mayor White says every storm is a learning experience, and that's important since weather patterns seem to change all the time. And just as important is the ability to pinpoint damaged areas and send help quickly. That's where TranStar and the Houston Emergency Center, better known as the HEC Center, come in. They're responsible for dispatching all first responders.
As hurricane season heats up, the city of Houston keeps a wary eye on the Gulf of Mexico. Memories of Hurricane Ike still linger in people's minds. Thanks to the hard work of TranStar and the Houston Emergency Center, Houstonians will have plenty of reasons to be better prepared for this year's hurricane season.
During a large event like a hurricane or some weather event, then the transportation people will work with the emergency management agencies and pull their resources together. During Rita, the state changed a lot of their policies on evacuations during hurricanes. So between Rita and Ike, we implemented those new policies, and people were educated to what to do during an event like that.
TranStar has a better plan in place now, with more than 600 cameras keeping an eye on our area. 70 of those are set to target places most vulnerable to future hurricanes. All in all, Hurricane Ike was a great exercise for TransStar and HEC officials. They worked together effectively to help Houstonians be smart and safe about evacuation routes.
Contraflow is a way to bring more lanes online that you wouldn't normally have, and can be a very dangerous thing if it's not handled correctly, because essentially you're running cars up the wrong way on the freeway. It takes about 2.5 to 3 hours to reverse all those lanes, because you have to go to every single ramp and make sure that people aren't coming up their normal way.
Every incident, there's always a learning curve for that. For example, during Hurricane Katrina and Rita, it was the evacuation problem. And we had to go out and get the counterflow issues taken care of, put that as part of the emergency plan, and also an outreach to citizens in areas that may not need to evacuate if not necessary. We also implemented the zip code, the postal codes, where areas where we could see where the plan or the model of the storm, kind of see where those areas might be affected. During Hurricane Ike, all these were already in place, and there were warnings to citizens that if they don't need to leave, we didn't have that evacuation problem.
Joe Laud said Houston and surrounding areas had enough manpower to rescue those who decided to hunker down or evacuate.
It was an incredible force and use of everyone's resources. The one thing that I did notice out of peculiar in all the years of service out here is that when Hurricane Ike came through, that was the first time the police and fire did not dispatch while the storm was coming in. Very unusual, but we did not want our first responders to be out there in the storm's path. Immediately afterwards, we were able to respond to that, and we can actually say that there were no casualties during Hurricane Ike. There were outside casualties around the area, but in the city of Houston, we didn't get one.
The most critical problems were caused when gasoline became scarce and fuel trucks were not available. Other lessons learned from Hurricane Ike will help emergency agencies keep citizens better informed about the status of devastating storms.
Zip codes that we've seen that follow a hurricane chart, for example, a storm's path. And that's where we determine which areas might be affected. So the folks closest to that area of danger, we would want to have them go out first. And then secondly, the next surrounding. And that way it's to avoid the congestion that can occur on the roads.
Today, the HEC Center and TransStar promote communications between private and public sectors, as well as educate citizens about safety.
What do we want? What do we want?
One of the most valuable lessons learned during Ike was about downed power lines.
The learning curve for this one was what to do without power for several days, possibly even weeks.
Turn my lights on, please. Help us.
If you should consider needing a generator for any kind of equipment that you may run, medical equipment needs to be run, you may consider purchasing one.
Thank you for the guy, he fixed the electric.
Workers at the HEC Center dispatch help or rescue teams to people who find themselves in trouble when water rises. They are able to respond quickly to any emergency situation because they've trained using mock scenarios of disasters. Today, the more we all know about natural disasters, the better prepared we can be.
During Hurricane Ike, there were over 500 people manning these posts. They coordinated a huge repair and recovery effort in Galveston and beyond. Stay with us, because when we come back, we're going to tell you what you need to have to be ready for this hurricane season.